Hello again. So, I'm responding to an article. This video is about responding to an article I read, written by Matt Walsh on The Blaze. And dead on. Well done, Mr. Walsh. Very well done. Very well written. Not mixed with a lot of complicated words that, you have to have a PhD to understand. Just straight to the point, straight to the heart. And, he brought up two issues that I've been talking about, since I started doing these videos. And one of the issues he talked about was about abortion. And there was a point he made that I've been making, talking about, I'll just read, he basically the article's about progressivism as a ideology utterly devoid of intellectual integrity and coherence. Okay, and then he gave a real-world example talking about how ridiculous that liberals support abortion, but usually recoil at infanticide. What did I say the other day about, what's the difference between, a baby born and a baby right before it's born? Nothing. But yet, abortion, even partial birth abortion, has to be protected. You can't budge. They, like I said, progressive liberals, whatever you want to call them, they won't budge on the issue of abortion. And later on in the article, he talks about gay marriage and talking about how, the hypocrisy that exists within progressives, regarding, we can't have religious, laws that protect Christians from, letting them express their religion. First Amendment, gives Christians or anyone of any belief, as long as it's, as long as it's not in hindering anyone else's rights. Look, if you're having a wedding and you want to go to a bakery, you go to a bakery and you want someone to make a cake for it. If the person's okay with you having a gay wedding, fine, there's no problem. But there are people in this world who have an issue because, look, in the Bible, God says it. God says a man sleeping with another man as he would with a woman is detestable. There's a reason why only 2% of the population calls themselves gay. It could be like 5, it could be 10% of the population actually is gay, but only 2% is because even people who may be in the closet still. You say, well, how can that be in this day and age? Blah, blah, blah. Well, it's still 2%. Only 2% of the population admit that they're gay. So it's clear that 98% of the population, at least, maybe 50, 60, 70% of the population don't have a problem with people being gay. But there's still only 2% of the population admit being gay. If it was a normal lifestyle, the term that he uses is, it's a proclivity to be gay. It's not to be a Christian look, Christianity goes back 2,000 years. Homosexuality goes back further. We know that, but in history, people say, oh, gays have been mistreated forever, blah, blah, blah. Well, there's a reason for it, because it's homosexuality doesn't do anything, doesn't of itself, doesn't do anything for humanity. And you really break it down, because there's a lot of people who are who have diseases. I mean, if anything, it's caused problems in humanity. It hasn't solved problems; it's caused them. It's brought in diseases. Because people who are gay, they're not just going to have their way with other, same-sex people. These people do experiment with bestiality and other kinds of just deplorable practices. And so it's not just, the whole concept of being gay. It's all about the sexual liberation bullshit that exists in our culture today. The whole LGBT thing is completely absurd. And they're trying to make it like it's a normal lifestyle. It's not. It's not normal. It's not the same thing as what African Americans had to deal with for centuries, with being enslaved. And if you're gay, you can exist in the shadows. Do whatever you want in private. No one really cares what people do in privacy. That's why we have right to privacy. But homosexuals, they want to have the same rights as basically people who have kids the old-fashioned way. And to me, that's just not right. It's not the same thing. You can't. There's no moral equivalency there, especially when you realize that God has made us in His image. That's what we're taught, right? And so when a gay person wants to say, God made me this way, no, God didn't make you that way. Even if you were born that way, He didn't make you that way. Genes are passed on. It's very highly conceivable that it is genetic, but that doesn't mean it was designed. Because part of our evolution, I believe in microevolution, because I believe in intelligent design. I believe in, I believe that, it's possible that, our activities in our life will affect our offspring. Because these traits do get passed on. You develop traits and characteristics, as you develop in your own life. And then these characteristics and traits can be passed on. And homosexuality is one of those things that if you develop that, engage in it, and then because it's documented that people would engage in that behavior and then get married and have kids. So it's highly conceivable that someone who's born gay is it's a result of an ancestor that experimented with it. I think it is very, very possible. And that in the Bible says that the sins of the father are passed on the next 4 or 5 generations. I mean, that's in the Bible. So I mean, it doesn't people you want to say see, I mean, it's not a choice. Well, even if it is, like if your natural instinct is to be attracted to the same sex, if that's your natural instinct, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's okay. It doesn't. I don't think so. I don't subscribe to that. Not if in the Bible it talks about 2 cities getting burned to the ground because of that behavior. I mean, that tells you what God thinks of it. That's all I need to know. And don't equate, the dream of Peter saying that the whole law was did away with. No. That there's real life applications to that passage, but there's also spiritual applications, because Peter had the dream. God gave Peter that dream to tell him that the message of the gospel was not just for the Jews, not just for the Jewish people, the people of Judea. It was for the whole world. That's really what the dream was about. But it also kind of meant that, it didn't matter what you ate. Because food is, different cultures eat different kinds of food. So, I mean, but as far as having sexual relations, incest. Look, incest. There's a push for. There's this organization called NAMBLA, North American Men and Boy Love Association, for crying out loud. A sick institution, but it exists. Are we going to then say it's okay for them? They're going to get legal protection under the law because, gays are, blah, blah. Well, that's just adults, blah, blah, blah. No, see, you open the door to some of these other sick institutions giving, Donald Trump was in Pennsylvania, and he just blurts out, and this kind of like made my face do all kinds of, he's like, Joe Paterno, how about Joe Paterno? How about all that? What about that? I'm like, what, Donald? What are you trying to say there? I don't know where he was going with that. Like I said, I can't. I'm not a Trump supporter. Just not. I don't want to talk about Donald Trump right now. I want to talk more about this article because it resonated with me. And it's like Bruce Springsteen canceled a show in North Carolina, which caused great distress and disappointment to 65-year-old white dads across the state. Maybe chuckle. But Bruce Springsteen's a douche. And the guy, I never really was a big fan of his. He had some good songs here and there, but he's an old geezer, for crying out loud. He's just trying to stay hip, I think. I don't think he's going to cancel a concert because of a law that supports religious liberty, which is in the Constitution, for crying out loud. It's just, because the thing about in Christianity, I mean, this is the thing that really irritates me too. I mean, I was listening to Joe Walsh earlier, not the singer of or the guitar player from the Eagles, but he's the Republican congressman from, I forgot which district. It might be the district I live in currently, but he was talking about how women, there's a war on women. Like, the conservatives hate women, and I think the opposite is true. I mean, I think it's the liberals that hate women. I mean, the way they treat women. I mean, look at Bill Clinton. I mean, come on. The guy's the biggest misogynist. I mean, he think about how he treats his wife, for crying out. How he treated his wife, and she, it's just the biggest dingbat in the history of the planet. I mean, to just accept that, all that he was doing. I mean, you hear stories about, like, how many women he raped. I mean, some of it's got to be true. I mean, look at Bill Cosby. I mean, no one's questioning. I mean, people were like, during that whole thing. I mean, Hillary was treating women too. I mean, some of the women that were accusing him of all this. That just told me, that whole situation told me they were more about power and prestige. They didn't care about people. They were more about power. And that's what he's about, clearly. And that's what it's always been about. The way men are, the men that treat women like this, I mean, it's all about power. And that's why I say, liberals, people on the left, they're the ones that are at war with women for real. Abortion is not a solution to what's the problem that exists, with just our culture in general, and Joe Walsh was talking about, what goes on in radical Islam with regards to women. And how they get, they've been, like, this group in Nigeria, this radical Islamic group in Nigeria was kidnapping Christian girls who go to Christian schools and, basically forcing them to become suicide bombers. It's a good thing that's a reason in and of itself to go to war. I mean, when you hear stuff like that, that's why I'm a big Second Amendment guy. You take the Second Amendment away, then all hell will break loose. I'm telling you right now. You take the right for good people to bear arms. You take that away, all hell will break loose. I'm telling you, that's what I know to be true. Like, I don't own a gun. I don't really want to own a gun because I just don't have the concern for my own welfare that other people have. Maybe if I was married and had kids, I probably would think differently. I probably would own a gun because I want to protect my family. But, and I probably shouldn't be announcing that I don't own a gun, because then, it opens me up to being, but whatever. Like I said, I don't have the concern for my own personal welfare. I just don't. If something happens to me, that's why I'm making these videos, because at least people will have me this here. Maybe that's why I'm making these videos, because I know something is about to happen. And I feel like I got to get my message out. You know, I'm not going through a midlife crisis, but, you know, I feel like, you know, the world around me is crumbling. And, you know, when you read this article, it makes a lot of sense to me. You know, it's about discrimination. There's different kinds of discrimination. There's good, there's bad, and there's neutral. Discrimination in itself is not bad. I mean, there's you know, the good kind of discrimination is like, you know, you know what, I think I'll have, instead of having that, you know, half-pound burger, maybe I should be more sensible and have, you know, some fish, like, you know, that cod fillet, you know, I think that might be better for me to have instead of that half-pound burger. You know, I mean, that's a good form of discrimination. And then, you know, a bad form of discrimination would be what happened to, you know, enslaving African Americans, or you know, beating up someone because he's homosexual. That's wrong. I want to make the point that if people are gay, you know, you still have to treat them, you know, with like they're human beings. I just think that they shouldn't be getting special treatment. I think gay marriage, having gay marriage be legal, is giving them special privilege. Because marriage traditionally has been between a man and a woman. It's really just that simple. And when you make it okay between the same sex, then you're basically forcing a lot of people who have work in that, you know, like work in the marriage industry, to be forced to accept it. You know, because there's a lot of people who work in the marriage. It's big business. I mean, marriage, well, it's big business, and so you got to figure there's a lot of people who work in the business who have deep-seated religious beliefs, especially in states like North Carolina, Florida, Alabama, Georgia. I mean, these states, I've been there. I know they, even like, you know, the more liberal people in those states, they're not open to the whole homosexual lifestyle. They just aren't. A large percentage of them. That doesn't mean they don't accept them as people, but to accept them, you know, like I said, marriage is a traditional institution. It's not about, you know, it's not the same. It's like driving. It's more of a privilege than it is a right. It's not a right. You don't have a right to be married. You know, I'm not married. You know, I can't go to my congressman and say, I demand to be married. You know, it just doesn't work that way. You know, it's about understanding what marriage was really meant to be for. Raising a family. We say, well, why can't they adopt? Like, I'm not opposed to them being allowed to adopt, but like I said, when you get the government involved, it changes the dynamic. It's no longer something as simple as, you know, cohabitating, because there's different components to marriage. There's a religious component. There's a legal component, and then a relationship component. You know, Because it's not just about the two people that get married. It's also, neighbors, because not everyone's going to be okay. I guess I'd be more okay with it if gays were more accepting of the fact that a lot of people aren't going to accept their lifestyle. But I know that's not true. Gays, I know gay people. They're narcissistic. Okay, they have. I think most gay people have something wrong mentally. The gay people that I've known in the past, I found out things about them. They're not normal. And maybe I have some abnormal characteristics myself. That's why I have a hard time with jobs and whatnot. But I'm not attracted to other dudes. I'm just, no. It's just, I can't, I have a hard time coexisting with anybody else. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I think I am a bit of a narcissist too, because I'm more, I get along better with people who I stay at a distance, like that I keep a distance. If I get to know you too well, I'm going to see a lot of your what's the word? I'm going to see a lot of your flaws, and I'm not the type of person to point them out. So I'll see your flaws, and I'll just kind of I'll do the best I can to just overlook them. But sometimes I can't get past her. If there's certain things, certain characteristics and that's just why I've always had a problem just getting along with anybody. Male, female. If you're a dog, you're okay with me. I don't have a problem with a dog. Dogs are cool with me. Even the dogs that have bit me in the past, I don't have any real issues with them. But just people in general, I know it's like I'm a Christian, I'm supposed to love one another, right? I mean, I struggle with that. I do. I struggle with what Jesus taught, the golden rule. But, I think that's part of the reason I do is because my father was kind of like that, I think, and his father was kind of like that. I just think that there's a narcissistic quality to my existence. But I think most gay people have it, and they run with it. And think about the gay pride parade. If you ever been to that or seen any footage on TV, it's just, there's a reason these people generally go to generally are in the theater. On Broadway or at the university. Roommate I had was he was a theater major. There's just a reason for that they're generally theater majors, because they're narcissists. They're in the closet, most of their life, right? Most of their childhood and adolescence, they come out of the closet and they major in theater. They're accepted by, in urban centers. They're accepted. That's mainly where they're going to be accepted, and that's where where they can get work too. They'll either they'll work as a waiter. This is me being stereotypical. They'll work as a waiter because they're trying to be an actor, And, that's fine. I don't really have a problem with them doing that. Honestly. But when they try to, try to be normal, that's when I kind of say, you're not normal. You do realize that. Your lifestyle isn't normal. So why are you trying to be normal? Just be who you are. If you believe God made you that way, be that way. Don't try to do what, most people end up doing. Having, getting married, having kids, all that. I mean, part of the reason I don't want to get married is because I don't want to have all that responsibility. There's a lot of responsibility having kids. Raising a family. And in today's world, I don't want that. And I don't understand why, if you're gay, you'd want that. I don't get that at all. It just makes no sense. Especially if you're a narcissist. Because you're only going to, and I'm going to feel, a lot of kids are going to be, they're going to be made fun of, as it is in that situation. And then when the inevitable happens, a divorce or whatever, that's going to be, ugh. Can you imagine being in that situation? I wouldn't want that. No way. No way in hell. I wouldn't want that at all. And so I'm just trying to bring a little common sense to this whole conversation about gay marriage and about abortion. Because I think a lot of people, even people I would agree with, like Donald Trump, he says he's pro-life. Okay, abortion's illegal. So, what do we do with women if they, break the law? Have an abortion. Well, you punish them. They're basically, like I said, they need to be treated like drug users, basically. And drug users need to be treated, basically. I think the same thing needs to happen to women who have abortions. Because I think a lot of women who have abortions suffer in silence. After I've read the numbers about how many women who have had abortions go through post-abortion trauma, 91%. So you know that a lot of them are suffering in silence. And don't even know it. And it's like, I don't want to be condescending or arrogant. And I might sound like that at times, but it's all about common sense for me. I don't want people to think I hate homosexuals. I don't hate them. I just don't agree that gay marriage is okay for our culture, for America, for the world. It's a traditional institution that, shouldn't be messed with. There's no need to amend the Constitution to define marriage. To me, no. I don't want that either. Just, let people do what they do in privacy. If they find a church that is okay with that, there's a lot of liberal churches that will allow, and to me, they've sold out to the New World Order, or they sold out to this idea that, marriage equality. You say it a bunch of times, people are going to buy into it. But I've not bought into it because I have a scientific mind. It's impossible for two people who of the same gender to have a child naturally. I mean, that's reason of it itself why I'm not going to say I'm opposed to gay marriage. I'm going to say I'm not for it. I'm not going to champion it, and if it's politically incorrect, I don't care. I'm going to be politically incorrect in a lot of ways. I mean, racism, it's politically incorrect to talk about African Americans in a negative way, right? Because of how hard they've had it for centuries. But, I mean, slavery ended generations ago, 7 generations ago. I mean, and yes, in the 40s and 50s, there were still separate bathrooms and separate drinking fountains. But that was in the 40s and 50s. I'm not equating, the LGBT agenda to the civil rights. It's not a civil rights issue for me. It's not. Because only 2% of the population. That's it. They're not a minority. Not like, the African Americans or Hispanic or, I mean, even that. I don't like when we divide races, because I mean, in today's world, everyone who's a legal citizen or a legal resident in this country has the same rights as anyone else. And if you're an undocumented resident, then you have basic human rights, I would say. But if you don't, you need to get proper documentation to be here legally. There's rules, there's laws about being here legally. There's only so many hospitals, there's only so many schools, there's only so much infrastructure as it is to handle the amount of people that are here legally. Then when you top off how many people are here illegally, then, it puts a strain on the infrastructure. And they're not paying taxes on top of that. So these are common sense things that the campaign is addressing, but you got candidates that are just all over the place on this stuff, saying crazy stuff or being quoted as saying crazy stuff. And it's why the country is in the shape that it's in. It's because we can't agree on anything. We can't agree that the world is messed up and it needs to be fixed. But who's going to fix it? Well, that's where we have a problem. Because, as screwed up as the world is, and it is, it's screwed up. There's no easy answers to fixing it. I don't got the answer. I mean, I know I have beliefs, but I don't got the answer or answers how to fix the problems of the world. I'm just here to basically try to install some common sense into the world. And I know at times I'll sound angry and raging and whatnot, but when we talk about issues like abortion and homosexuality, I think people really have to think more. It's not all about religion, but we do live in a country that has religious liberty. And homosexuality in many religions is not upheld as a normal lifestyle. And even today, where we're more secular in nature, the world's more secular today. I mean, we live in a postmodern world, but there's still, it's, you know, it's not still, to me, not a normal lifestyle. It just isn't. And therefore, it's not, you know, it can be discriminated. It's okay if it's discriminated. And if you're gay, you should understand that, because you should know that, you know, you know, being married is not equal, does not equate happiness. It just doesn't. You know, because first of all, when you're gay, if only 2% of the population is gay, it's how, you know, the chances of you finding the right person is very, very tiny. I mean, as a guy who's single at age 40, you know, it's hard to find a person you know, the whole idea of spending the rest of your life with someone. I mean, that's not easy. That's not an easy choice to make. You know, that's why people generally date like 30, I don't know, 20, 30 people before they get married. I mean, that's, you know, but it's like, even when you get that, when you think you meet the right person, even then, you know, things happen in the course of a marriage. And that's probably the number one reason, I mean, why it's a lot of responsibility. And then even when, I don't know if I can go through a roller coaster ride of like, because like I said, I have a hard time getting along with anybody. I always have. You know, I mean, I can get along with people on, you know, like on a superficial level, but beyond that, I have a hard time getting along with people on a deeper level. I just do. Even my family. I mean, I have a hard time getting along with people in my own, that are, you know, they say blood is thicker than water, but I have a hard time getting along with people. Just like I said, a superficial level, yes. But if you dig below the surface with me, you just don't want to. Because I guess it has to do with what's happened in my family, some of the things I, you know, observed in my own family, and also some of the things I've observed in my own life. You know, there's a lot of stuff that, you know, that I've done myself I'm not proud of, you know, at all. I mean, but then there's stuff that I've seen other people do that have disappointed me. And as you know, you read the news too. It's like it's a story of humanity. I mean, you know, all the stuff that people do is like, you just shake your head. That's all you could do. It's like, Really? And there's so much I could talk about. That's why I'm going to keep doing these videos. Because, homosexuality and abortion, those are the two issues that seem to divide us. When they really shouldn't. And it's the reason they divide us is because, the people, abortion, the people who are pro-choice, I hate that term because it's such a lie. I mean, I've always thought that was a lie and it turned out to be true when you realize what goes on in China, the forced abortions. Do you hear the liberals, attacking the Chinese government, the communist Chinese government, for the forced abortions, the way they go after pro-lifers? No, you don't. There's no way you do. And then when you look at homosexuality, people say it's not a choice. It's not. And to me, it doesn't matter. I've explained why I don't think it matters, because I think even if it turns out you're born that way, it's a passed on trait. Doesn't mean it's okay. That's just my belief. And then I'll be ridiculed for having that belief. I don't care. Because, like I said, I serve a higher purpose. This world is going to pass away. It will. We're headed toward that direction. And the New World Order is making sure. It is doing things. And all you got to do is watch this election. There's so much confusion. So much. Even the people who are fighting the globalist agenda, they themselves might be creating it. And they might not even know it. That's something I thought about a long time. I thought about, man, what if people that I've looked up to, Rush Limbaugh, and Sean Hannity, and now Alex Jones, what if these are people who are just, part of building up the New World Order, and they themselves don't even know it? I thought about that. It's like, who I used to think were, basically fighting the New World Order, but, they themselves, Rush Limbaugh is probably the biggest sellout when you think about it. He sold out to the neocon agenda. So did Sean Hannity. Before 2001, when I was listening to them, I honestly think they were genuinely being true to fighting the globalist agenda. But then, they were so in the tank for Bush, and you saw what happened. Well, Alex Jones, he's in the tank for Trump. Okay? Completely in the tank for Trump. And so, once you get, it's one thing to support a candidate who says he's going to do this and do that and do this. But I look at someone like Trump and I say, okay, is he a political insider? No. Okay. B, is he an insider of any other institution? Like Hollywood or Wall Street. And I say, well, you know what? He's kind of on the inside of both of those, wouldn't you say? Wall Street and Hollywood. You may not be a DC insider, But I believe he's a Wall Street and Hollywood insider. And for me, that's all it matters. Then he's that's all I need to know. I can't back someone who's that. That's why I'm a Rand Paul supporter. Because, yes, he's a senator, so some would say he is a D.C. insider. And to some extent, that's true. But he's only been a senator for, since 2012? 2014? I can't remember what year he became senator. But he's only been a senator for so long. So you say, well, Obama was only a senator for so long. Well, yeah, but Obama was a Chicago policy. That's another institution. Chicago is almost equal to D.C., in my opinion. If you're a Chicago insider, then you're basically a D.C. insider. So that's why where people would look at Obama as an outsider, kind of the way people look at Trump as an outsider. It's kind of the same thing if you think about it. There's a lot of similarities there. And so that's all I need to know. All the quote-unquote insiders might hate him, but that might be part of the game, too. And so I'm just saying, watch who you put your allegiance to. Study the person. If he's got any kind of ties to the elite establishment, not just DC, then you got to be careful. And he's got ties to the elite establishment. NBC. He was on that show, The Apprentice, NBC. That, to me, puts him in the same ballpark as someone like Obama or Hillary, quite frankly. We know Hillary's the insider, no question. Bernie Sanders, he might be the one guy that's actually on the outside, but I can't agree with his politics whatsoever. Free this, free that. No, that ain't going to work, Bernie. I mean, it's a nice thought, but it ain't going to work. And that's why I am probably, as of now, I'm going to vote for Gary Johnson. Even if he loses, I want to be able to say I voted for a libertarian candidate last two presidential elections. That's what I want to be able to say. Because, I'm more libertarian than I am a Republican, for sure. And I consider myself more conservative, but the libertarian message does resonate with me. I have some problems. I mean, but I fundamentally agree with them about the drug war. I think the drug war is a failure. And I also think that, I'd be okay with gay marriage, honestly, if it meant that, they didn't get special privileges. Because like I said, it's a privilege to be married. And the thing is the LGBT community, like I said, they're a very eccentric group. They're not normal. Okay? I don't want to really say people are going to judge me oh, you're a homophobe and all that. No, I had a gay roommate. I had a gay colleague. I just fundamentally disagree that it's a normal lifestyle. That's all. That marriage equals happiness. You know, because it's a numbers thing for me. Look, if I know how hard it is as, trying to find the right mate, even when I would try to date girls in the past, it's hard. So, and there, 98% of women are straight. So, if I'm having a hard time, it's got to be hard for someone who's homosexual to find a mate. Say, well, that doesn't mean they shouldn't be allowed to. But my point is you can't force the institution, you can't force people who work in the industry to succumb to basically have to take their business. That's the whole point. That's what the point of the article was. Because on the flip side, then you got to force, Bruce Springsteen should have to then play that concert because he's discriminating by not playing. That's the point of the article, which I think was brilliant. Well, I got to wrap it up because last time I rambled this long, it cut me off right at 60 minutes, and I'm at 56 minutes and 55 seconds. So I only got 3 minutes to say something, but I think I said pretty much everything I want to say. TheNZF.com. I'm still in the process of working on the website. I have the domain. I'm gonna get it going. I'm gonna work on it a little bit here and there. I'm planning on moving, so it's probably gonna put a monkey wrench in my plans of getting it up by September 11th. But I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to launch, at least get the site up. It might not look great, but I'm gonna try to get the site up, and then I'll post songs from the past. Off the album, The Ends of the Earth. The EP, the demo EP really is what it is. I'll post those on the website, and eventually I'll record new songs, and hopefully people will hear it. I mean, I really don't care who hears it. I'm not going to make people pay or subscribe or anything to hear whatever I do on this site. I want people, if they want to engage with me for whatever reason, that's fine. If they, people want to have debates with me, I'm open to that. I'm open to debate people on some of this stuff, because I could go into it, but I got to wrap it up. So just know that I plan on having TheEndsOfTheEarth.com up and running September 11th. Hopefully, God willing. That is all.